YouTube channel and on our webpage today. And Curriculum Genie, that's something I'm not familiar with. So, well, great to have you all. I appreciate you dropping all that in the chat. I love hearing what other people are doing. Sometimes we don't take enough time for that, but it is 3:31. So we'll go ahead and get started. And as we have new people pop in, we'll drop the link in the chat again. Somebody mentioned Question Well. Now, I don't know why, but I haven't looked at Question Well in a while, but it is a fantastic tool. One of the other consultants showed it to me last year. I don't remember who, but it's a really cool tool. And I think they have a bunch of new functionality as well. So I'll have to look at that again. Sometimes I forget about things that people have to remind me. But we'll go ahead and get started. The short link is on the screen, as you can see. And there's also a QR code, and there's an obnoxious rocket that I'm going to get rid of and move to the next screen, where you'll see the QR code again and my contact information. I left a bunch of white space because we were going to add Stacy's, but we didn't get that done today because Stacy's going to take over a few minutes of the presentation today, but we'll let her introduce herself. You want to go ahead and do that, Stacy, because I'll probably forget.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stacy Lovedahl, and I am out here in Chatham County today and was presenting at the ML and Standards Academy. And so you'll just have to imagine me in that white space. But I am the Western Region consultant, and I'm very excited to be here. And I'll chime in a little bit towards the end about some updates on School AI and some exciting things they're getting ready to roll out. Thanks, Vera. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And I just saw a couple of other things come in the chat. Make sure you check out Teacher Server. That one's brand new to me. I have never heard of that one. So I'll definitely have to check it out. It has a wow after it. So we're all going to have to check that one out. And then somebody's planning a teacher academy and wants some digital literacy resources. I don't know if any of the consultants have access and time to pull up what Sabrina has been working on, but we might be able to share that. I don't have it real quick where I can grab it and share it, but if anybody has time and wants to share that, we do have some digital literacy resources through DPI that Sabrina Stegelman has been working on, a great collection. So hopefully we'll get that shared with you as well. Teacher Server is a well. Okay, we do need to check that one out. Then make a mental note to check that one out. All right, well, we will go ahead and continue. Keep sharing if you want to. I'll keep trying to stop and mention those. But as always, it has been a busy, this time almost 3 months since we did one of these update webinars. So this summer version has a lot of stuff in it. And I'll try to pick a top 10 or 12. This time we've got 13 or 15, something like that. But we'll go ahead and cover as much of this as we can. We'll do hands-on some as we can. But we'll talk about all of these things on the screen, and I'm not going to read them to you because we're going to go through them all individually. And each one of them will give you a little preview and talk about it. But I want to share this first. I usually begin my webinars with one of some version of this, which is part of my bigger AI progress graph, which has gotten really, really long. It's like a scroll now, if you can imagine, a digital scroll. But I just pulled out kind of the last 3 months, things that have happened, and kind of put them on here chronologically. Most of them are covered in the presentation, but there are links in here if you want to dig into any of them further. So we will leave that there, and you can dig into those if you want to, but we're going to dig into them individually on the screens. And so the first thing I want to talk about is Gemini. Gemini kind of sucked all the wind out at ISTE. They had lots of things going on with Google at the ISTE conference a couple of weeks ago. And so I want to cover a few of the main ones. There's a lot of things that happened. We won't cover every one of them, but this is a big one because they have now made Gemini 2.5 Pro free for education. And so Pro is one of those premium models that generally you have to be a paid subscriber to get. But if you're on an education domain, you get access to it for free now. And we'll look at it in a minute. We'll kind of dig into it a little bit. But it is one of their newest models. It's built on Learn LM, which is a specific large language model that is built specifically for teaching and learning. And so it makes it behave a little differently. If you go to Gemini and you ask it to teach you something or that to explain something, you'll see that it takes on more of a role of like a teacher or a trainer, because that's kind of how they trained it to be. And so that's what it's built on. And you can actually build interactive simulations and quizzes, things like that in it as well. the reason why you might want to use it is because it is free and it is one of those most powerful models. And it shifts educators from being consumers to co-designers. And so it actually allows you to be an architect of your own instruction. And we'll do a separate webinar just on building with Gemini a little later. Right now, I'm seeing that when I'm building in it, I'm running into a few hiccups, and there are a few things that need to be ironed out before I do a whole webinar on that. But the future is looking really bright in that regard, that you might be able to actually build some pretty cool things. And I'm sorry, my screen just went blank, so I'm going to set up my presenting again while we're doing that. Get to the right slide again. Hopefully that won't keep happening. If it does, I just won't be in presentation mode. Okay, and I do have a little link right there at the bottom if you want to learn more about it. But to talk briefly about why you might want to use Gemini. And if you are in a district where Gemini is blocked, that's something that your Google administrator has to be the one to allow it. And every Google administrator, every PSU in our state has the authority over what you can and cannot access. But I just put this chart together just to kind of compare, because what happens is in a lot of places, our teachers are not provided with a large language model, a paid subscription of anything. And so they're using the free account. And on a free account, you have to remember that if it's free, you are the product generally. So your data is generally going to be trained on. It's going to be used to train the model. The conversations are not private. They could be reviewed by human reviewers. And using student data is a significant privacy violation if you're using a free model. And so we have to be super careful about that. But if you're using the Gemini for Education on your school domain, it is a core service now. Gemini and Notebook LM both are core services with Google. And so what that means basically is you get the enterprise data protection that you get with Google Drive and all of your other Google apps. And so your data is not used to train models. Nobody is reviewing the chats and things in there. And your data is protected under your school's Google Workspace agreement. And so it kind of supports FERPA and COPPA compliance in that way. And if you're using a free tool, of course, it's a separate tool. Using the Google Gemini, it is integrated into the tools you generally use anyway, the docs and slides and sheets and all of that. Free versions are usually less capable. You get less bang for your buck. You're using generally an older model. If you get any allowance on the premium models, it's very limited. And so you do get access to the premium model. I will say that it is still limited with education, and I do run into limits in particular when I'm building apps in it. But just a general chat, your limits are going to be much higher than on a free model. And personal accounts, of course, are not managed. They're not vetted. If you're using the domains, the Gemini on your school domain, it is going to be centrally managed by your IT admin, which ensures a little more safe, age appropriate use, kind of a walled garden, if you will. And some models operate, if you have a free model, sometimes it operates on a data set that has a data cutoff. Gemini actually gives you access to Google, so it gives you access to search content, which makes it more current. And so that's just a kind of comparison, because we do have a lot of people still on the free models and don't have anything with any kind of data privacy or guarantee. And Google is a way that schools can do that. Without having to invest financially. Most schools just are not going to be able to afford to pay for a ChatGPT, Claude, any of those subscriptions for their educators. So I do want to point out also.
Before you go on, can you talk about age requirements and the different levels so the educators are familiar with how the systems may approach that?
Yeah, I actually have a slide on that, a couple of slides from now. I probably should have put it right after that, but I actually have a slide where we'll cover that new age limits that they put in. Okay, thank you, Brian. And I'm going to try to check that. Well, it looks like I'm not going to be able to present my Canva today. It did that to me one other time. So I'm just going to go into, is that big enough where you can see it if I don't go into present mode?
Yes, it looks good to me.
Okay. All right. So we will go into that, Brian. I'll pull that up in a few minutes. But I also want to point out that Google's image model has improved. And so they're now running Imagen 4, in the 2.5 Flash, which is like their base model. And so as you can see here, I have an image of a caterpillar, and I'm just going to demonstrate. And if you want to pop up Gemini in another tab and play around with it, then I certainly would encourage you to do that. We'll take a minute for you to create an image in a second. But if you just go to gemini.google.com and request an image. So I'm just going to say, I'm just going to paste that in. And so basically I'm telling it to generate a highly detailed photorealistic close-up of a monarch butterfly caterpillar munching on a milkweed, visible leaf veins, dewdrops. So given all the details that I want it to create, and then if I hit enter, because I said generate an image, it knows that's what I want it to do. And also, if you're not familiar with the thinking models, what they call them thinking, I call them reasoning models, but that's why it says show thinking, because I am using right now Gemini Pro, which is that their most advanced model. And so up here in the corner, you can see that. And this is the model selector. It's not nearly as confusing as the one in ChatGPT. Right now, there are only a couple of things to choose from. It's either Flash or it's Pro. And I will say that the Flash is a very good model as well. It's just a little bit smaller size, but as you can see, I did get my image very quickly. But another thing I've been noticing lately is that ChatGPT, the last session, if you were in the April session, I showed you a lot about creating infographics and very detailed graphics with ChatGPT. It seems like Gemini is becoming more capable in that as well. And so that's what I've done here. I've asked for an infographic, and I've done a few others, and it does a pretty good job. And but you'll notice that there is a spelling mistake there. That's something, they don't do it as badly now, but you do have to always verify. And of course, you have to verify that the information is correct as well. But if you haven't tried some of these more advanced prompts lately in Gemini, then you might want to try that. And I would like to take just a couple of minutes and let people play around with that if you have not played around with it before, or maybe ask for a little more advanced image than what you've asked for in the past. We'll take about 2 minutes so we have some hands-on time to do that. And if you create something you want to share to drop in the chat, then you're welcome to do that. I'm seeing 3:43, so I'm going to go to about 3:45, give you opportunity to play a little bit. So I'm going to put the infographic one in there, and I'm just cheating. And I told it what to title it as well. We'll see if it can get the spelling correct this time on the word that it misspelled. And notice when it says show thinking, if you haven't explored this before with any of these reasoning models, whether it's Gemini 2.5, ChatGPT 03 or 03 mini, any of those, when it says thinking, it details the reasoning steps that it goes through. And I'm not happy that they call it thinking, but they all do. And they all have one of these models now that you can try out for free. But it's kind of like giving a back, letting you kind of peek in the back window and see what the models are doing. And so as you can see, this one is much different. That one just showed me an image, it didn't generate it. So that's another thing that happens, is they're unpredictable. And so it didn't generate it that time, the last time it did. And so you have to just be willing to iterate and kind of reprompt. And so I will try it again. I'm not going to spend much time on it. Instead of just finding one, want it to generate it, and we'll let it go for just a second. Anybody else has something they want to generate, wants to drop it in there? Okay, somebody else said it's doing the same thing, Christy. It's not typical if you ask it to generate, but again, these tools are so unpredictable still that sometimes you will get a completely different response or a different output every time you try. And so you have to kind of keep reiterating. And now it did it correctly, and it still misspelled chrysalis, but not the same way, not as bad. Stacy dropped one in the chat too, a highly detailed photorealistic close-up of a cardinal and a blue hydrangea. That one's pretty good, Stacy. You got pretty good. Okay, and my second time it didn't show me an image, so you just have to keep working with them and trying things. But so that is Gemini 2.5, just to kind of get an idea of what it can do. We talked about deep research in one of the previous ones, and we mostly discussed the Chat GPT version. But there is also a deep research in Gemini, and it is a really good tool. It does take a really, really long time to run, and so it's not something that I can really take 15 minutes to do a live demo or have you do a live demo, but I just want to give you an idea of what it can create. And so I'll start this. But if you look at the prompt here, I've asked it to talk about PBL, and I've given it some very specific parameters of the people I want it to research and how I want it formatted. And that's the most important thing when you're doing this, is you've got to be very specific about what you want and what kind of sources you want. Like you can say only educational websites and so forth. But when your research is created, um, and you put it, when it is finished, it will give you options at the top. And some of these are new since the last webinar. First of all, you've always been able to export it to docs or copy contents. And what you'll get if you export to docs, this is a Google Doc right here. It's linked there, and that you'll get that doc, and it will be properly formatted with heading styles and all of that based on what you told it. And I told it I wanted MLA style, and that I wanted a works cited, and I wanted in-text citations. And so if you look through here, that's exactly what it gave me. And so it goes through and it formats it so that you have your heading styles correctly. So on the side panel, you get all of that. But if it goes through to the end, and then it gives me my works cited in MLA format. And so that's kind of the end result. And I'll pull up that search that I did from my history so I can show you. Let's see. I've been doing too much on here. Oh, I had it saved. So this is my demo that I did. And first of all, I will go back. That was when I created a quiz at the end. So I tried all the things. And so here is my research. When your research is ready, after it finishes, nope, that's the infographic. After it finishes, it'll open up your research. And then up here, there's your export button. But this is what some of the new stuff is. You can create an infographic, you can create a web page, you can create a quiz, you can create an audio overview. And the audio overview is going to be just like you get in Notebook LM, the same two voices, but that you don't really have the customization option, but it'll create an audio overview of that. All of those are linked on the screen or on the slide, except for the quiz. It doesn't really let you export the quiz out. You just take it live and then it gives you a score. And so it creates a quiz on your research. But the infographic and the web page, you can see both of those on my slide. And I'll kind of open those up so you can see what they look like. I just threw it into a Google site that I already had. And you can see them side by side, and then there's the audio overview as well. And so the infographic it created here, it pulled data from my post, from the research, and then it gave me all of these data, and it's all interactive. And then on the website, it does the same thing. I just kind of crammed them in there side by side. But that's the kind of content that you can create from your research. And so some of that is new, and I wanted to make sure and cover that. But deep research is a really good tool if you are trying as a teacher to learn about something that you're going to teach, or you're going to try to learn about something that you, some kind of a new, okay, somebody's saying this is what you look like if you have Pro. Yeah, if you have Pro, you will have a video option. Everybody doesn't have that video option. So I'm not sure. Are you on the education account, Molly? Let's see. I think I've missed the question. In the image, is the image option below the prompt box only in the paid version? I don't know. Is nobody else seeing the image button? I always just type it in, create an image of. So I'm not sure about that. Anybody else has a non-pro account, but everybody should have. If you're on the education, you technically have a pro account. It's a little different version of pro, but you do have that. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that and encourage you to use that deep research feature whenever you do need to learn something new, whether it is about, behavior management, meeting students' individual needs, a new process that you're trying out. I really encourage you to kind of dig into that because it is a really powerful feature. It's kind of like having an agent do your research for you. And so I wanted to show that. And just as a quick reference, when you're doing deep research, You do want to make sure you state your goal and scope very clearly and demand reputable evidence, reputable sources. You can specify, only peer-reviewed journals, only educational websites, official data, so forth. I gave it specifics for particular people that I wanted it to reference. Specify the output format, include a self-critique step. You can ask it to check for gaps or contradictions, iterate and refine it just like anything else. You want to iterate and refine your output, make sure that it is accurate. And then this is also a good one to ask it to highlight consensus and disagreement. You can put this in your prompt to flag sources where coverage or conflict for balanced insight to make sure that it's not giving you a one-sided view of anything. And somebody else just dropped another image in there. Looks really cool. And for follow-up, I have Gemini turned on for my OU, but it is not recognizing that I have Pro, asking me to upgrade. And that's David. And David, you are the Google administrator? Okay, that's strange. I would be happy to look at that with you, David, afterwards. I have not, I know that it's rolling out, so perhaps it hasn't rolled out yet to you. So, but we will check on that. I'll be happy to check on that for you. Is anybody else not seeing the Pro? When you go to Gemini, is there anyone else who can't go up here and select Pro from the drop down on your education domain? Only David? Okay. Well, I do know that the rollout started at the end of June, and I would have thought would have been done by now, but maybe it's not. Maybe we're still rolling out, but we'll check on that with you, David. Okay, so I want to go ahead and move along then. This is something else that they rolled out at ISTE, and it is class tools inside of Google Classroom. And so in order to show you that, I actually have to pop open another domain that I'm in. And so I'm going to go to Classroom in this one. We don't have education domain at DPI just yet, so have to forgive me for just a second. But if you open Google Classroom on your domain, on your education domain, when you open Google Classroom on the left sidebar over here, you should see a Gemini tab. I think last year that was only there for people who had the higher levels of Gemini, but now it is available for all educators. And so when you hit Gemini right there, it's going to look very different. And again, this started rollout at ISTE, so I hope everybody has it. But what you're going to see is going to look very magic schoolish, if you're familiar with that. They've built a lot of custom tools for teachers, and there are more. If you go to show more, you can see that there are several more of them, and you can also sort them. Not nearly as many as Magic School or School AI, but they do have some custom tools built. I will say that I've done some testing of them, and I only did it on one day, and on that one day, some of them were not working fabulously. And so I think that they maybe still have some work to do on it, but I imagine that they are working hard behind the scenes to get them ready. But what you'll notice is they either have a Gemini icon or they have a regular icon. And so if you go to one that has a Gemini icon, what it's going to do is open Gemini, but it's like Gemini that has already been prompted for you. So you'll see that it has a big old prompt that's already just kind of dumped in there for you, which is also a really good way for people I like to examine other people's prompts. And I think that's a really good way to improve your own prompting. And so you can just kind of hit it and go, but you can kind of examine it a little bit too, and you can copy it and revise it and edit it. But when you open it with a Gemini icon on it and enter, it should, oh, I'm not signed in. So I didn't sign into Gemini again. Okay, so when you hit it, it should run the prompt, and mine just pops up in Pro, and it will work in either Gemini Pro or Gemini Flash. And so it will refer back to Flash if you've used all of yours. And somebody says we have to use Canvas instead of Google Classroom. Are there ways to use this in the classroom without Google Classroom? I don't think so. I think this is restricted to Canvas alone, or I'm sorry, Google Classroom alone. I did hear I saw an interesting post to do about Canvas, that they're actually collaborating with OpenAI to put Chat GPT in their system. And so I wouldn't expect that will be long before that happens. But I don't think you can use this portion if you don't have a Google Classroom account. And Stacy's got some new image generated there. Okay, so it says to get started, you've got to, so it will prompt you to keep going. And so this is that Learn LM. And so I'm not going to take time to go through all the way that prompt, but if you want to just kind of would take a couple of minutes again, if you have a Google Classroom account and you just want to dig in there and explore a little bit, look at the different things they have, and see what you think about them. I think some of them are good, and some of them have a little bit of work to be done on them. But when you click them, they will normally, ask you to put in a grade or a target and a topic, and then it will create them. So I can just say like grade 8, and my topic is going to be push. I think that was maybe that was 7th grade. And so if I go generate learning objective, then it will generate a student learning objective. And of course, you can always go in there and edit and refine that. And you can also, instead of just a topic, you can put a particular standard in. And that's what I really recommend doing is if you have a standard you're trying to teach, just copy and paste your whole standard and drop it in when they ask for that. And then you can iterate more, or you can regenerate it. You can upload files from your drive. And so it does, again, it has that seamless integration with Google Drive and all of the Google things. And so that is helpful to have. Okay. It looks like we're still generating images. That's much more fun. I know. So we have a rhinoceros, or what is that, triceratops? And Stacy's generating some as well. Okay, well, I'm going to go back to my other account now and pull that up. Okay, so Gemini tools, you've seen those. I think they will continue to improve, but they're there. And I also want to talk briefly about GEMS. I did a webinar about GEMS a couple of weeks ago, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but a couple of people already mentioned in the chat that they're enjoying exploring GEMS. And so they did make GEMS free for teachers as well. They are not yet available for students. This is an adult teacher tool only right now, but they're basically, it's like creating your own custom chatbot. And so if you're using ChatGPT, they call them GPTs. Other tools have them as well, but it is in School AI, it's like a space, but you're creating your own custom chatbot that you are giving a particular job to do for you. And so it runs on Gemini on that 2.5 model, but it's a great way to kind of boost your own productivity. If you think about those things that you do over and over again, the prompts that you're using over and over again, and when you're typing them, you're thinking, gosh, I've typed this 100 times. Well, instead of typing it 100 times, you can create a gem and put that prompt in that gem, add whatever resources you want to it. And then the next time you need to do that same thing, you can go use your gem and you don't have to type any prompts and you don't have to add sources to it. And so they are available now for all workspace accounts. And I can spell education, so I'm going to do that right there. They are not shareable at this time, though, so I do want to point that out. That's why I don't have one for you to try out, because they don't allow you to make one and share it with anybody else, or I would have created one and let you try one of mine. But they promised that will be something they're rolling out soon, that you'll be able to share it with your colleagues, other adults in the building, and also that you'll be able to assign them to students through Google Classroom. Now, again, if you're in Canvas, I'm not sure that's going to help you, but if you're a Google Classroom user, they are making them shareable that way, but students still will not be able to create their own. They will only be able to interact with the ones that teachers create and share with them. And so that's all coming very soon. And so I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide if I can find where I'm at. Okay. And so why would you want to create a custom chatbot? Again, you want to streamline those repetitive tasks, prevent you from having to rewrite complex prompts over and over, and increase consistency also in responses. Now, there's no way to guarantee consistency with AI, because as we've already seen, 2 different prompts will do 2 different things 2 seconds from each other, but it does increase that consistency. And it allows you to personalize it and then add your own knowledge base. Now, why use the Google version of that? Again, you're getting that enhanced data privacy, It is free. You can't create a GPT unless you have a paid Chat GPT account. As an educator, you can create these without having a paid account. It gives you free access to that powerful model, seamlessly integrates with your workspace. You can pull your knowledge source items from your Google Drive. You can either upload them or pull them from your Google Drive, and then it allows you to customize them as well. And so if you're interested in creating your own gems, I do have instructions here to do it, but I also have right here a link to the presentation that I did on gems a couple weeks ago. And again, that video is on our AI Resources webpage as well. And so if you want to watch the whole webinar and kind of work through it and create a gem yourself, I encourage you to do that. But there's a lot of other things to cover today, and I don't want to spend too much time on that. Any questions on that before we go through, or anybody has used gems and wants to either come off mute or pop in the chat something that you've done with them that you found helpful? Somebody already shared about using the PBL mini PBL creator that I had shared. And that one will be in my webinar and on that website as well if you want to try it. Has anybody done anything else with a Gemini gem? Feel free to come off mute if you want. Molly, do you want to tell us what you made? You can come off mute if you want to, or if you're not comfortable with that, you can just type it and we'll look at that in a second when it pops in. Okay. Okay, that's okay. All right. Well, I'm glad that you are using them, and maybe we will hear more from you next time. If you feel like typing it, you're welcome to type it, but that's okay if not. Okay, so I do want to go ahead and go to the next thing. I don't know how many people have explored vids. Okay, before I do that, though, Molly created a creative coach, and she'll try to send a screenshot of its instructions. That's great. And that is the only way you can share them right now, is to put your instructions in a Google Doc and share that Google Doc with someone else. And then when they create theirs, they just use those instructions and adapt them. So that would be fabulous if you can do that, Molly. No pressure, though. Don't want you to get too distracted, but I'm glad that you're finding them useful. But I do want to talk about vids for a minute. Vids has been out for a while, but it's one of those things, again, that they just made available to all Google education domains. I haven't taught about it previously because I don't like to talk about things that are only on the paid versions, but now it is available even if you have a free version. And it's something that's been missing from the whole Google environment, in my opinion, for a long time, because it is a video creation tool, and it's actually a very simple, very easy to use, and pretty powerful video creation tool. And so I will show you a little bit about it in a minute. It is also available for students if the Google administrator has allowed it. And I think video has always been a great way for students to tell their stories and to demonstrate their learning. And so you might want to explore that and see if it's available for students on your domain. But I'll just kind of go briefly. I've got some directions here, and I've got like a little screencast of me going through the process, but I'm just actually going to demonstrate it live. We'll have that there if you need it in the future. But I'm going to go, really, you can go to it lots of ways. You can go through it from your apps launcher if it's there, may not be there for everybody, or if you just go to your Google Drive, and under your new, when you go to new, you'll probably see it there. Mine is right under Google Slides, or you can type vids.new. And just like you can do docs.new, it will start a new vid. And so I'm just going to go to my vids right there. And I do have a couple of things that you won't have, so ignore those first two and don't be jealous. Those are some AI features that are not on the fundamentals plan. But these last four you should have. You should be able to record and share, so you can create your own video recordings with your slides. Upload and create. You can either create something from your drive, like if you have a Google Slides presentation you've used previously and you want to animate it and make it a little more lively, make it into a video, you can do that. You can pull something from your computer. You can start with a template, and they have some pretty nice templates. Or you can actually import a whole Google slideshow and start from there, or you can start from a blank. And so what I'm going to do is just import slides just to give me something to work with more quickly. And so if I go to import a slide, I will just pull in this one because it's kind of short, has just a few slides. And when I pull it in, you'll see that it gives me an option. Do I want to select all of them or just part of them? I'm just going to go with all of them and import it. And it will import it. And just like that, I have a slideshow, or not a slideshow, I have a video. And so it always puts a blank at the beginning for some reason. But now you'll recognize a lot of these tools from any kind of video tool you've ever done. You can show timing for all, show timing for selected. You'll see down here at the bottom, you can adjust the length of your slides. You can drag. It's very simple, very user-friendly. You can add transitions in the middle if you want to do a fade or whatever. And wherever your player head is, you can play and preview it from there. But you also have lots of other tools over here. Here's your recording studio. If you want to do a slide and record a video for your students or whatever, it's very easy to do it right on the slide. You can also make yourself a script. And so if you're doing a recording and you want to have a script, you can kind of make the script there, and you can go by the script as you go. I'm not going to show you VO because that's not on the free version, but you do have uploads. If you upload files, it will save them. You can upload from your Google Drive or from your Google Photos, and you can see I've got several uploads there. It's got lots of stock videos, images, and music, and stickers, sound effects, GIFs, Google Images, things that you can pull from. Of course, you've got text and shapes and templates. It has quite a few templates that you can use also. And what I like too is you can just pull one slide from a template. So if you want one slide only, if I want to add a slide to the end of this, I can just add a slide, and I can pull one slide from a template. I don't have to pull the whole template in. So it's really user-friendly, very easy to use. And then at the end, you have the same sharing capacity that you have for anything else in Google. You have to name it. I'm just going to call it test. And then when you share it, you have the same things you have with anything else. You can share it with people. You can make them co-editors. So if I add Jill, it's the first one that pops up, then I can make her an editor and she can collaborate with me on the video. And so somebody says, how can I use this to improve student engagement? And somebody else is answering him, but somebody's picturing doing a project in conjunction with the SRO and DARE instead of having students use WeVideo, which is a great tool, but it is a little bit complex. You give them slides template and have them create a simple video for sharing and judging. That's a great way to do it. Having students use it to create their own. I used to have students do book talks, book videos where they kind of previewed a book for others and things like that, but we used WeVideo. Now, if I were doing that now, I would have them use vids because it's much easier and simpler. Again, you do need to make sure that your students have access on your domain, because that's something that anything within Google, your Google administrator is going to have the purview over that. Now we do have, I want to take a couple of minutes and let you play in vids because most people have not really used it before. So it'll take about 3 minutes and just kind of let you explore and play around a little bit. At any time you want to play, you can just play it there. I didn't add any music or anything to this one, but I could have done that easily. And then it plays just like a video, and then you share it with a link just like you would anything else. And if I don't make it restricted, I could share that link with anybody. And so I think it's a really cool tool if you're in a Google domain that you would want to use. And somebody has one there. Do you mind if I pull it up, Molly, and show it? Is this your documentation for your gym? Okay, since it's in the chat, I'm going to assume you're okay with me sharing it. So, and I do encourage you to look at that. If you're creating gyms, I do have a lot of information, as I said, on that webinar and those documents. But this is a really cool way to share a gym right now, is you have to just kind of put your instructions into a Google Doc and share it with someone else. And she has some fantastic, very detailed instructions here for a gym. And so that would be a great starting point. And of course, if you want to do it a little bit differently, you could change it up a little bit. But having somebody else's instructions is a great way to start and to kind of create your own gym. And that looks like a cool one. I may have to create that one for myself. So I'm going to add that to my Google Drive. Thank you, Molly, for sharing. Take just another couple of minutes. If anybody creates anything cool in vids, I know it's a very short time, but feel free to drop a share link in the chat. Yeah, I agree that that is what's been missing, April, with Google Drive. Um, and honestly, I've kind of become a Canva fanatic, and I probably wouldn't have had I had access to vids a couple of years ago, because it really does a lot of the same thing. Gives you a little. There are a few things in Canva that it doesn't have, like the embeds. I think that's another thing that's really missing, the ability to be able to embed something in Google Slides or vids. I would miss that if I switched, but otherwise it's got some really cool tools if you're already in that environment. Great tool to use. And it's very easy. Okay. Okay, well, that was about 3 minutes. We may have a little more time, but this is the slide Brian was referencing earlier. And let's see what Brian created first. I'm going to go ahead and open his up, and we'll look at it, and then we'll move on to the next thing. So Brian very quickly created a water formation video. Very cool. Did you, oh, you used VO. Now we're just teasing people though, because other people don't have, that's a really cool tool I wish everybody had access to, but we'll talk about that in a minute also. Okay, so VO is very cool. If you have a paid subscription, you may see that too, but if you're on the fundamentals, you won't see that. And so we don't want to tease you with that too much, but yeah, it is in vids if you're on a paid subscription. So Brian mentioned this earlier, and I probably should have had this slide at the point that he mentioned it instead of here, but this is something everybody needs to be aware of. Google recently made Gemini an all ages tool, not just 13 and up. It's been 13 and up for several months. But as of about a month ago, they announced now that all ages within a Google education domain will have access to Gemini. And so that happened in June. There is no age restriction. If they're signed in with a school account, any of them could potentially see Gemini, depending on the Google admin settings. Now, Google admin, if you're the Google admin, you know you have those age-based settings. And if you have students in a group and you have not allowed Gemini for that group, that won't change. But what's going to happen starting August 1st is if you get new students and they're not put into an age-based group that has Gemini restricted, they will have access. And so everybody needs to really audit their age-based restrictions on their domain and make sure that only the people who you want to have access to Gemini do have access to Gemini. Our stance still at DPI is that we don't recommend chatbots for elementary school ages. And previously, there have been no chatbots for all of middle school, but this does open that door and kind of make it potential that if your school, if your district is ready for that, that you do have that potential to do. But we just want to make sure that nobody gets surprised and you have kindergartners on Gemini when you didn't know that was a thing. And so just encourage people to check on that and make sure. I will say that the experience under 18 is a little different. It is a little more guardrailed. They have to go through a little brief AI literacy video first. The first time they do a fact-based search, it forces them to verify their data going through that Gemini process. And it has a little more guardrails around content that they can search, and it doesn't let them generate images. And so, because that's fraught with potential, issues. And so it is a little different for the under 18s, but it is still giving them access to a large language model. And so just want everybody to be aware of that. Somebody says, in regards to elementary students not using chatbots, does that apply to school AI? That is in our recommendations and considerations. It is not policy nor law or a mandate. So we, as a state, do not feel comfortable with recommending the ages lowered just because of some issues that have happened. But some districts and some schools and some teachers may be better poised for that. But we're just concerned that students of that age don't have the necessary critical thinking skills and life experience to fully vet the resources for bias and accuracy and things like that. But that is an individual school decision. School AI is, of course, safer than most other things. But it is still running on ChatGPT. So that's just something that individual district has to decide on that. Good question, though. We get that a lot. this is one I'm not going to play this video because it only applies to Plus subscriptions. If you don't have a Plus subscription, this is not going to be for you. If you do, they have some really cool things coming out for managed Chromebooks, things that people have been asking for years and years, ways that teachers can see what their students are doing on the Chromebooks, lock the Chromebooks, send them to just one website and not let them go to other websites, lots of things like that. But again, it's only for those Plus subscriptions. And there is a video there. If that is you, you might be interested in watching it. If not, then you probably don't want to watch it because you're going to wish you had it and you won't have it. So, but it's just there. Just wanted to make you aware of it. That's been rolled out and it is available. In order for it to work, both the teacher and the students have to be on managed Chromebooks though. And so that's something to know. Okay, and VO is the other thing I was going to talk about. We've already kind of got a preview of that. Brian created a little VO video there within Google Vids, but I want to make sure this is one that even though everybody doesn't have access to it, everybody needs to be aware of it because the potential that it brings for misuse. And so this is a video that this VO3 when it came out actually gives the AI videos voices. And so I'm just going to play this as something I created with a few lines of text, and hopefully you'll be able to hear it.
Teachers and students, we finally have voices. That's right, we can talk.
Okay, so again, hopefully you could hear that, but that is something I created just with a few lines of text. And it's really important people know this because it's very realistic, very believable, and it's very accessible. You do have to have a paid subscription to Gemini, like a Gemini Pro account, not the education version. It doesn't have it on there. And you have to have, you can also get it in Canva Pro. They added it to Canva. They have added it to several APIs, Google Studio. So there is potential for a lot of people to be able to access it. And it takes literally no skill to create things like this. And so that one was kind of fun and silly, but this is another one, a potential use of it that could be used.
Good evening, North Carolina. Emergency management confirms a massive meteor is on a direct collision course with our state. Impact is
Okay, so that shows you, potential how realistic that is. That person looks very real. Her mouth moves in sync. The voice sounds real. And I've got it labeled as fake news, but that's the kind of thing we really have to be very, very critical in everything we see now. We need to teach our students to be very critical in everything we see. And this is, I was going to walk through and do a demo, but I'm running a little short on time, and it does take us a fair amount of time to create one of these. And so what I've done here is you can see there's a certain format. You can just use normal text, but I've read and studied on it, and I found that this format works best for creating videos. And so I've generated this prompt, and I'm just going to play it, and you can see that it has some bad spelling, but
I wish I was pretty like you, Barbie. You are beautiful just as you are, Marika.
And what prompted me to create that one was also a story I've heard recently that Mattel Toy Company and OpenAI have entered into a partnership to create AI-enabled Barbie dolls and Hot Wheel toys. And there are some other AI-enabled toys out there, and I have very strong feelings about that, but it is happening nonetheless. And so just another thing to kind of be aware of, but just thinking about the mental capacity of our students at that age and engaging with a toy that talks to them like a human and sounds like a human is something that people need to be aware of. And so wanted to show you that. There's something else that's come out that you don't have access to unless you have a paid account in ChatGPT, but people need to be aware of nonetheless. I've talked a lot about agents. 2025, I said a couple months ago, was going to be the year of agents, and ChatGPT has just rolled out an agent. And if you see on the screen, you can see the agent working on my behalf. And so what it does is you can give it a task, a very complex task, and it opens up like a separate little computer screen on yours. It takes over. It can search the web for you. It does make you sign into things, but it can actually access your files and your documents if you give it access to, can access your email, your calendar, even credit card. If you wanted to have it purchase things for you, you can have it go on the internet and purchase things for you. And so this is a whole new a whole new era in AI that we're facing, and those agents are everywhere. This is not the only one, but that kind of behavior is important to be aware of because the progress is still exponential. These tools are just progressing at exponential rates, much more than anybody could have imagined. And so there's also rumors of GPT-5 launching this summer. And if it does, we'll see what that looks like, but they'll get rid of all the model pickers. If you go to ChatGPT on a paid account, you have like 5, 6 different model things to pick from, and they're going to unify those into one. It's supposedly going to be even more multimodal, have better reasoning, fewer hallucinations, a bigger context window. And Sam Altman said that it would release this summer, but then I saw another post that said they might have to push it back because of some security concerns. But again, it's just really important people are aware of that. And there's another creepy video that I created, but I'm not going to play it because we need to move on to Stacy's portion. But there are some Notebook LM updates too. These have actually been a few weeks, so you might have already experienced them. I'm not going to demonstrate them, but mind maps rolled out over the last couple of months, multilingual audio overviews with over 50 different languages. Mobile apps for podcasts on the go. If you like to listen to podcasts in the car, you can now make your own podcast and listen to them in your car. Public sharing is also available. You can share a notebook publicly. However, we've discovered that does not work on EDU accounts, but you can share notebooks with anybody in the world now. Discover sources is one too. You don't have to provide all the sources. If you click the Discover Sources button, it will find up to 10 sources for you to use, and you can use them or decline them. And then there's also some context-aware notebook controls in Google Admin. If you're a Google admin, you might want to check into that. They've promised soon some new things rolling out now, or featured notebooks, where like if you go to it, you'll see a bunch of notebooks other people have created, like you do on the video sites. Being able to share with a colleague on the same EDU domain is supposed to be rolling out soon. The ability to assign a Notebook LM to students in a Google Classroom. And then they're also promising to roll it out to all ages. So again, something to be aware of. It will be based on Google admin settings. And I'm going to turn it over to Stacy, who is going to give us some rundown on school AI updates.
Hi, everybody. So School AI, if you are a School AI person, you may have seen them advertising that they're rolling out some new updates. So if you sign into your account, you'll notice a button in the upper right-hand corner. You can unlock early access. You can switch back and forth between the beta version of their early access and the old model. So don't worry if you click that button that there is a point of no return. You can always go back to the version that you know and love, but it is really worth it to click around in the early access version. The things that are new are listed there on the left-hand side, and then I've got the graphic from their from their showcase that they had the other day. So the big, sort of the big items, they have Dot. Dot is the new co-pilot, the guide on the side to help you create. Can you go back to that slide? That you can create that helps you create prompts for their School AI spaces, and then all of their other teacher created materials, lesson plans, helps you grade assignments. They're also rolling out an extension, a Chrome extension that can sit alongside other things as well. And the reason behind that is the goal is to help create better student experiences. One of the things that they found when they evaluated all of the spaces that had been created up till now is that the prompts were very, very short and weren't necessarily leading to very dynamic, high quality experiences. So they wanted to improve that. So they have Dot to help that. It reminds me a lot, to be frank, of the School AI space brainstormers to help them be more multi-step spaces. They also have created incredible power-ups. I'm going to talk about that in a second. They've created some organization to it. They have are more FERPA aligned and things like that. They have have 10 power-ups right now that you can see those on the screen. Some of my favorites that I've created so far with are, it will generate a image inside your space based on how you prompt your space to create it. And it'll allow students to doodle on an in-space doodle board. You can also generate flashcards and a bunch of other things. And there's a Desmos graphing calculator, and they're promising even more. When you pause a space, so suppose you've generated a space and the students are all using it. So on the next slide, you'll see what happens when you pause a space. All of a sudden, just like in a Nearpod, everybody's screen changes and it says, eyes on me, look up here. So maybe you've noticed the kids are struggling with something and you want everybody's attention to be on you. So their screens will change. On the next slide, you'll see an example of what the inline graphic looks like. So kids are working on something that they're supposed to do, and that graphic will show up, and the space will ask them to look at questions about the graphic that you've asked the space to generate. On the next slide, you'll see an example of what their mastery task feedback looks like. So they've improved the way the space gives you feedback, and it's based on every section along the way in the space. So you can see the spaces are becoming much more sequential and task oriented. And then on the next slide, we have when you see that screen, when you click to go into the new experience, they've also recognized that people are creating spaces not just for students. They're creating spaces for teachers and for staff. So you'll be able to go in and let the AI space creator know that these are for students, and then these are also for teachers and staff. And then on the next slide, that's a link to the showcase if you would like to hear it directly from School AI and get more details, so you can link straight over there, not have to hunt around for that. And then on the next slide, I've got
Next slide is me.
I don't know what I have on the next slide because there is no more. There you go.
Okay, thank you, Stacy.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I hadn't had time to dig into that, and Stacy's always on top of it, so I appreciate her hopping in. I feel like a lot of people use that, so I wanted to share. They had some exciting updates. I also do have some information here about a couple of things that have happened the last couple of days that you may or may not be aware of. From the White House, we have an America's AI Action Plan that was actually formally announced today, kind of leaked yesterday. And so basically, there's a few massive points right here that I've got, but it allows it prioritizes AI, and it has some other things that are debatable, and we will have certain feelings about, but they're right here. It does at least prioritize AI, and it gives every agency actions that really make AI literacy a priority and AI in education a priority. And then there's also this call for feedback. So they have a grant, something about grant proposals, how they're going to deal with grant proposals. They've actually added AI to them. AI literacy becomes grant worthy now. And so if you are doing an initiative for professional development or any kind of AI work, that is going to get you some extra points on a federal grant applications in the future. And so that does help us hopefully to access some of those funds. But if you want to give feedback, feedback is due on August 20th. And so there's a link there at the bottom on the Federal Register to provide feedback if that's something you're interested in. This came out last week, and I think it's interesting and something that educators should be aware of, that Common Sense Media rolled out this report, and it had some not surprising, I'm afraid, but some kind of shocking statistics about teenagers and their use of AI companions. Now, we had a report come out a few weeks ago that said that that's the number one way that people in general are using AI is as companions or counselors. But for teenagers, 72% of our teens on this survey have used AI companions, and 52% use them regularly, like many times a month. And 33% are using it for social interactions, such as, practicing romantic engagement and things like that. And obviously that's concerning. And that's something that we're going to be offering some new guidance about in our refresh of our guidelines coming up. But I want people to be aware of that. It is a trend that educators need to be aware of. Also, this is new. The Hour of Code, of course, has been around for a long time. They've just announced that they will be having an Hour of AI. It'll be the same time, and it's kind of going to be formatted. It's kind of based on that same code.org, um, the successful Hour of Code that they've had for years. And so there's some information. There's a website about it. If you want to click there, it will give you further information about the Hour of AI. That should be in December. And then the feedback form has been dropped in the chat. And so I'll drop it one more time. I'm going to leave you with this, and we'll listen to a song while you're finishing your feedback. But if you didn't hear this, there was a band that kind of blew everybody away and came on the scene a couple of weeks ago, and people started trying to research the members of the band. And they found out that they couldn't find out anything about them. And finally, the creator came out and admitted that it was an AI project. Now, that band had 3 albums in 6 weeks, and they've amassed over 1.5 million monthly listeners. And so it's just something, I have strong feelings about that too, about, the value of human creation versus AI creation. But I want to just play a little bit of this, and hopefully you can hear it. As we're finishing out, I'll kind of play quietly in the background. I'm going to move forward a little bit.
On the ground, smoke in the sky, no peace found. Rivers run red, the drums roll slow.
Okay.
Tell me, brother, where do we go? Raise your hand.
I've got it going, so get it quiet.
Sing out loud.
Okay, and so I just wanted you to be aware of that, kind of a fun or creepy, depending on where you land. But that is something that's happening more and more also. There have been AI-generated videos that have become commercials, lots of stuff going on in the AI world. And that one I thought was kind of intriguing. And the music actually sounds pretty good, kind of 70s-ish. And somebody has put something on there about a book club pick, Culpability, the must read of the summer. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. You want to tell us what it's about, Ellen? Or just let us, I'll read the reviews. But if there are any questions, I'm happy to stay on. We are a couple minutes over, and I know people have things to do. So remember that if you fill in the feedback form, you will get a certificate of attendance. But we do appreciate the feedback also. Helps us plan future webinars and refine what we're doing. So we appreciate y'all coming and joining us on a summer afternoon, and hope you enjoy the rest of your summer.